New York strips he's got on his chest.
Exactly. The ribeyes. Welcome to the show podcast, Spinal Tap, season 1, episode. No, season 2.
Yeah.
There's my dyslexia. Okay.
Yeah. Season
Oh,
1.
that's
Season
real.
That was a very
That's
lame.
real weak. I guess I'll have to
We'll dub it in.
dub something.
This is a house of learned doctors. You're not a doctor.
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor!
Doctor.
Doctor?
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine?
I am a doctor. You're not a doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. Well, we're excited. One of our goals was to invite really influential influencers.
You've made it then.
Yeah,
This is the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
This is the pinnacle.
we're peaking.
Looking down into the village now. Should we all raise our hands and see who's most tired today from being a dad?
Ooh.
I will put my hand excessively down right now.
You're feeling refreshed? Mm-hmm. Good for you. What's
Yeah.
it feel like?
Your kids are they're at a really good phase.
They're humming. So my last night, my dad routine, Michaela was out of the house. She was doing a thing for jute. So I put Wendell down, bottle, rock. That kid can go down. You just give him a bottle, and he's just ready for bed. And then I told George to read a book, and I put Wallace down, and he wanted me to lay with him. I didn't send you this picture, but this is a proud dad picture here.
After you guys ripped the apple.
Oh yeah. That's Wallace. Oh yeah. Wallace's little hand.
Yep. he just zonked.
Yeah, it's the best.
I should show you a picture of how projectile vomited all over our bedroom last night. Let me see if I
Yeah.
can
So
pull that
Richie
up.
wins. I will.
This was the best. Into Cat's mouth. They were sleeping like this.
His
into
wife's
the
name
mouth.
is Cat, not.
Yeah, not our animal.
That would be
Also impressive. Yeah.
Was that her intention to catch it like a little bird? or-
Yeah, she was being like the best mom, just cleaning up, the afterbirth and all that.
Oh my gosh.
It was bad. It was the second night too.
So that was yesterday,
That was last
and
last night at 10.
we're in a room with you right now.
So I feel
Please,
okay.
sir. Let's wrap
Honestly,
them in plastic.
If I haven't got whatever
Yeah.
vomiting bug is going around,
Yeah.
Poppy had it, who I told you.
Oh yeah, let's do
Parker.
your story.
Oh, well, Poppy, she was up from like 9 to 3:30, vomiting every 20 to 30 minutes. So I just stayed up with her.
Yeah.
One eye open.
I'm just making fun of her the whole time.
And then she woke up. She was just fine. She took it like a champ. I mean, she's like 2.5.
Was
She
this
just-
recently?
Yeah, this was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it went through our family as well.
Yeah. I'm the only one. It did not go through my other.
I don't think
our
our system
youngest
allowed it.
Our youngest had it.
Yeah.
The next day, my wife had it the next day. My in-laws had it the following day.
You
And I'm just
big-
sitting there like,
Can I add to this story?
You're lucky.
yeah,
They just got their new house.
Oh, yeah.
So just moved in.
yeah.
Had
my
all this
goodness.
happening. He's getting his old house ready for renting, and then we're just trying to bust
A surprise party. We had
surprise party.
40th for my wife.
He just went through
Just pile it
Couple
on.
That's
things
why.
going
That's
on.
why we had a little break.
little
I'd
lag
say.
in the
Little lag.
podcast activity.
It's been a month or two,
It's
hasn't
been
it?
it's been a
been
I don't
6
know.
weeks, I
Has it
think.
been a month?
Does it sound okay in your ear? Could it be a little higher?
I'm
It sounds
comfortable
good
with
for me,
the
yeah.
volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
But we're back.
Okay. So Dr. Zach,
You guys
Yeah.
gonna do an icebreaker?
not yet
Okay.
because he has to tell us how tired he is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Not like
Not
Calvin
vomit.
throwing up in my wife's mouth
'Kay.
tired, but he's been doing this thing recently where he's just dead asleep and then he just wakes up from coughing and then just transitions from coughing to just screaming as loud as he can. And he'll just do that until he's exhausted, which
Yeah.
is about an hour.
Oh boy.
Oh.
So
And
you
sometimes
have
that
to hear it.
repeats.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no pillows that are gonna. But yeah, so that was fun. But he's normally a very good sleeper. But yeah, last night was one of those cough, wake up, scream for an hour, fall asleep, rinse,
you-
repeat kind of things.
Plain.
There's some
Yeah,
other
yeah.
stories.
Father.
Just be quiet. It's better to say less.
I'm learning it every day.
It's very irritating that when some people are like to new parents, "Well, enjoy your sleep now because you're not going to get it," and it's like, yeah,
I know. I hated
I
that.
hate that.
Yeah.
It's an annoying
hated
thing
that.
to hear.
Yeah.
It's like we all know
was-
what we signed up for.
Yeah.
We all know it's gonna suck.
Yeah, we know.
Most people go into it knowing.
Yeah. It's gonna be
Well-
different. Hey, Andrew, are you able to see that camera? at all? Is my head in frame? I never know.
Is this
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you got
teeny?
about this
Okay,
much,
okay.
probably.
Is
Yeah,
this teeny weeny beanie?
My teeny weeny
Make
beanie.
sure it's
anything
teeny weeny
bigger.
beanies.
That's the only reason he wears
Yeah.
those, for that reason
It
only.
is to keep my head in
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah, no, that's
Just on,
good.
Yeah.
on profile.
That's right.
If it was like the kids these days, it wouldn't be in.
They
You'd have
do
it kind of up on the
wear
top of your front of your head.
Those
Really?
curly hairs, the
Style?
bastards in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
broccoli hairs.
I only know because I
Broccoli
work
heads.
with them all day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You go to
I was
school with them
Chewing
too.
on their chin.
That
gotta
yeah,
be-
we won't talk about
Yeah,
the
that's
fact
not-
that there's 19-year-olds in my cohort.
How,
That
how
seems
old
very
are
young.
you?
I'm 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 31, so I have about
You're
not.
the old guy in your class.
Yeah, no, they week 2 I'm now dad
You got
to the whole
Oh, yeah.
you
cohort.
got AARP. In
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, we can talk more about that. You're in a good position to be in chiro school, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
excited for you're going to be at this different echelon, and it's just going to grow. I think
Yeah.
you're going to have a good career.
I'm excited for it. I really am. I mean, it's a lot going back to school after a big hiatus.
Yeah. It's,
Just the more scheduling and management with a family and all of that. But like you said, it's really exciting. I mean, listening to some of the chiropractors come in and talk, and kind of I'm like, already my wheels are turning about what am I going to do with this, and I'm excited to see how, my work with Vital Pursuit Athletics is really going to just compound and hopefully help me integrate. We were talking about before we were on air what I want to do with the practice.
Pre-show talk.
Yeah, the pre-show talk.
is this the pre-show talk?
It still is.
I think this is still the
Technically.
pre-show
Well,
because we have
Yeah,
to.
we got to start it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you do the
Oh.
intros and all the stuff.
Well, this is an epic episode ahead of us.
Very special.
Season 2, episode 1. Guest star Andrew Bolter, no E, which we found
E.
out. Trust my gut. And he is a functional pattern specialist. What do you call yourself? What's your title these days?
Not that. Because that's a company, and I don't really associate with them. They have some good stuff for sure. Yeah, titles are so hard, honestly. I don't know why I
In your
struggle with
space.
that so much, but
Fitness coach. That's,
yeah, I mean, I would say trainer, but also like athletic development or physical preparation coach. I've been moving more into kind of the sports realm with high school and youth athletes, which has been really fun. But yeah, movement coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Andrew Bolter,
Hey, Andrew
a
Bolter.
local movement coach that I've known for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's stupid.
I know.
We met at Fit Space. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah,
Still
we'll
fits.
blur it out.
Yeah. So like you are in school, but you also are working.
Yeah.
If people are interested in interfacing with you on your work side, what's
Yeah.
the best portal of entry? Like who are your people that you want to accept, and how do they reach you?
Yeah, athletes or general population people. Anybody can reach out. I do online coaching as well as in person if you're local to the Minnesota area. So you can reach me on my website, which is vitalpursuit.co, so .co.
Should we put a link right there, Richie? Can you do that?
Right. Point.
Click here.
Point in multiple places so then I can just throw it in.
Got it. Right
Yeah.
here.
Right there.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Dubs.
Yeah, otherwise you can just shoot me a message on Instagram, vital_pursuit_athletics, and yeah, we can chat it up, figure out what's good.
Sweet.
Smash that like button.
Smash it. Follow.
subscribe to our-
Subscribe.
Smash that.
Get the
follow.
alerts.
How many followers do we have?
Yeah, we haven't.
Should we check right now? Let's
Yeah,
get a live.
live
Let's get a live
read.
update. I mean, it's just constantly.
I do expect
So
a
many subs.
uptick with all of your followers to
Yes, they
follow
will.
this.
They'll
Let's
just
see.
siphon from mine to yours.
Maybe we should do some collab posts where like I adjust you really vigorously and you stumble off the table and perform something.
I go try and sprint.
147.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Another thing to note about Mr. Andrew is that he is a first trimester chiropractic student, which is super exciting because we are chiropractors. I did probably allow him to get into school with my referral letter.
They did specifically flag that referral letter as the one that got me in.
Who is this, Mitch? Oh, we know that guy.
Please consider Mr. Bolter for attendance at Northwestern. He has a pulse and he is willing to pay.
That was the requisite, yeah.
Like, just sorry, Northwestern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your track record isn't solid.
They just weed you out with the
first two.
They bring everybody in, and then they start.
But
it seems like it.
They'll weed you out for T1, T2, but
Mhm.
you can retake T1 and T2 as many times as you want.
As long as you have a pulse and you can pay.
So what's the question?
Worst location for a pimple.
Okay. This isn't like a looks-wise worst one,
No.
but it's just physically the worst
Yes.
one is inside the ear.
Those
Horrible.
ears.
Okay.
Yeah, they're horrible.
Have you ever had behind the ear in the crevasse?
Oh yeah,
I have not.
Those suckers pop and you can hear them. It makes like a ladybug snap. I
I
had
think
one.
mine was
That
nose.
is gross.
Nose.
Inside nose.
Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Those
up
ones are
there.
That's
rough.
similar to ear.
Okay, now favorite pimple spot placement.
Oh God, no, it's just not that.
I mean,
Same answer in the crevasse behind your ear. It was so great. It was one of those where you just never forget. You're just like, that was so productive. And it didn't hurt.
just take a nap after for the rest of the day.
Yes, I wrote a book. That was
All
a
right.
good one.
I mean, ear is the worst. Anywhere around that's sensitive.
Have you ever had a
Top
knuckle?
of the foot hurts too.
Have you ever had like a hairy knuckle
Yeah.
on finger or
Yeah.
foot?
On a toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, toe hair.
No.
Pimple.
No.
Ingrown. Yeah.
More of a follicular.
Or even in the butt cheek, like because every time you sit down, like
That's hemorrhoids.
I've never.
the cheek.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
The butt cheek is
Yeah.
also unpleasant.
So what classes are you taking right now?
Good segue.
Yeah. Anyways,
I had anatomy. I was going to go for anatomy segue. So that's it.
Yeah. Did you guys have some? Did you have questions that? Because I prompted. I don't know if you had thought about any. I know you had a couple.
Well, I would think it would be contextually appropriate for people to know what he does and how he got there.
Yeah.
I will ask that question just because I do not know him,
Yeah.
and I'm just genuinely curious.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what did you kind of start from like after? Well, where'd you grow up? I guess you start
Yeah,
there.
I grew up local. I grew up in Edina, went to Edina High School.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Went to school at CU Boulder for a couple years, and then I went and finished at St. Thomas, and just too much skiing, too much fun in Boulder. I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
Kind of fast forward a couple years, I went through the Lifetime Academy when they had that, which was kind of like a way to prepare people to become trainers. So you'd go and you'd get your certification through NASM, which is a certifying body. But what they did well was you also got a lot of the in-person, like building interpersonal skills and some of the business acumen piece.
Mm-hmm.
As I was going through that program to become a trainer, Stephanie Winters, who's one of the owners of FitSpace, just kind of offhand mentioned,
Do
"Oh,
you
I'm
know Stephanie?
I think you introduced me at some point.
Maybe.
yeah,
Sounds familiar.
she's awesome. She was affiliated with Lifetime for a little bit. She may still be, but she mentioned she was opening this space. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do that then.
What space was that?
The FitSpace. Yeah. So it was a cool concept at the time. Basically, you could rent space as a contractor. And utilize the space as your own, and it was just kind of a unique concept, at least in the Midwest. So I got into training that way.
It was like an office share.
Yeah, a little bit of basically an office share. They do have employees that coach there too. And I mean, I guess I'll back up. What got me interested in kind of the movement space and training was I played a lot of different sports in high school, played some intramurals in college. I mean, I was never great at any of them, but I really liked them. And I got into the kind of physical training side. You know, when I was growing up, it was a lot of kind of like bodybuilding and powerlifting stuff. So that's where I started. Had a great time with that, got to a certain kind of level of strength and whatever. And I was like, I don't really see where this is going for me in terms of like, there's not much more to pursue there. But I recognized how good it made me feel. It helped me work through a lot of some of the struggles of just growing up and finding your way in the world. And so reflecting on that after school, I was like, I think that this could be a pretty powerful medium to help reach other people. So that's how I got into, okay, I want to go through the Lifetime Academy and all of that. So then I'm at FitSpace and I'm starting to train people, and I'm using a lot of the NASM techniques and the corrective exercise stuff, and their foam rolling was big during that era. Like that had a huge spike. And I was working with people, and as you guys know, like people's problems and distortions and injuries, they're really complex. And I didn't feel like the tools that I had from NASM and other certifying bodies were really capturing what was needing to happen. And that kind of, started me on this spiral of more like functional training. Exactly. It's got a pretty.
I'm gonna catch his.
No, that is the reaction of the functional.
Sorry.
I'm a functional movement specialist. Define that, will you, Andrew?
It's like occupational therapy.
Oh man. Well, at
It's
least
an occupation.
Yeah.
it's your
what you do.
occupation.
Whatever you want.
What did you? I apologize for
No, please.
that scene.
That's a really good segue.
What did you go to undergrad for? Like, what was your focus?
Initially, it was business entrepreneurship, but I ended up receiving a degree, a bachelor's of science in psychology.
Got it.
That's why you picked me apart the first time we met. Just cried.
You think
Figured
you're all
you out.
that?
Which is great because, I mean, it's a lot, it's a lot of relational,
You're working with people every day, man.
totally. And I think, at a certain level, you have to be interested in that. You have to care about getting to know them and understanding kind of what makes people tick. So that was my background. So I had to learn a lot of the kind of more of the physiology and the anatomy and all that stuff. And I learned that kind of just through working. So
Job training.
exactly on the job training.
Functional training.
Well, I would have
Very
to.
functional.
Your comment about NASM just as like didn't give you the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, I mean, it
Their
was a
intent-
jumping off point.
Right. Their intention is not to get you to that point, but I
Right.
think a lot of people in the industry realize like, okay, this gets me like I can get my foot in the door with that. But I think a lot of people they realize very quickly that there's a lot of different. I mean, that's why the fitness industry is just wild.
It
'Cause
is.
there's
It's
so
the
many-
Wild West.
I mean, there's so many options you can take it, and some are better than others, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
if it gets people better, I'm all for it.
Let's go over that. Which ones do you dislike the most?
I don't know. We don't need to go there.
I'm just joking. You don't.
It starts with a C and it rhymes with shit. Cross.
Cross.
But that's
Sing
a
the
generality
juggler.
because I do like some people in that space that do a really good job at programming. But I mean, on
Yeah.
the surface level, it's just like, oh man,
Yeah, it's
you're
tough.
underserving a huge subset of the population because they see like, oh, I can do that and look like you.
Yeah.
And it's not the truth.
No, typically not.
That's where marketing gets evil. It took it over and became a money making machine. So
No,
people
I think their
had it.
community stuff is great. I mean, they
Yeah.
get people in the gym.
Yeah, that's
which
why
is
people
huge.
love it. I mean, that's why people gravitate towards CrossFit. Is there's a community, you're doing something hard that pushes you out of your comfort zone, which is a lot of people need that, and so they love that aspect. And then unfortunately, there's extremely technical movements and high work capacity, and a lot of people just aren't ready to tolerate that, even though they want to do it.
That's where someone like you comes in.
But as
Yeah.
as you guys were talking about, like there's many different routes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what kind of helped guide you to the route that you utilize?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was not a linear path, and I will say, like, my approach and my understanding of what I think is most optimal is always kind of evolving. There was some really, I think, some certain foundational moments that changed my lens on training in general that I think was really beneficial, but how much or how little I use of certain techniques or certain approaches is much more varied now than it has been in the past, which I think is really good. Because you have institutions like Postural Restoration Institute, PRI.
Was that your first aha working with Stephanie at FitSpace?
Brent Albrecht did some really cool jaw manipulations with one of my clients who truly could not reach past their kneecaps in forward flexion, like literally could not. He had him bite down on a couple popsicle sticks on one side. He almost touched the floor. He had an interesting gait too, where actually both of his arms wouldn't swing when he was walking. Both of his arms started swinging reciprocally when he was walking. So I saw that and I was like, okay, there's something that I'm not fully understanding, something that I'm not capturing in some of my traditional training methods. So that kind of started it. I've dabbled in Z Health, which is the neurology of human movement, functional patterns, which is very much centrated around gait and gait mechanics. Whether they get that all right or not is another story. But that kind of opened the door for me to understand, like, the stuff that you do in the gym definitely impacts the way that your body works out in the real world. And depending on what you do in there, it can influence it for the better or worse, or be such a low stimulus that it doesn't do anything at all, which is maybe where a lot of physical therapy falls, in my opinion. I think the concepts are great. The stimulus maybe is not high enough at a certain point to then actually make real lasting changes.
That's a very capturing insight.
I was just thinking, I had all the stuff that I've done and just like, I never felt challenged. Or I left it feeling uninspired, so I'm not going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Which maybe it's a big part of where your work comes, like inspiring people in the moment to see success and like, oh man, who doesn't want to keep doing it if you succeed? Yeah.
So, there's been kind of this full circle of like, traditional training isn't good for a variety of reasons. Neurologically, maybe structurally, it kind of makes you tight, makes you not able to move as well. Going into like everything is functional, everything has to be contralateral, everything has to be like opposite arm and leg doing something.
Have a kettlebell for every movement.
Exactly. It all has to be very dynamic and all muscle slings and muscle chains. And then it's kind of come back to like, it really depends on the person and what they need and what their goals are. So functional is only in the lens of what is functional for that person, you know?
Yeah, trainers are in a hard position because if you're dealing with pain, you can't really touch it. But I think a lot of trainers work around it, and some are better than others. And it's
I think there's some foundational qualities you really want to try to maintain no matter what your goals are. I think, and that kind of leads into what I was wanting to talk about later, just with what is a, what kind of movement practice cultivates vitality and longevity. And I think that there's a couple of key tenets, and one of those is being able to move fast and move slow with a good connection to your body. Whether you want to, and moving fast or slow can be different for everybody. It doesn't mean everybody has to go out and sprint, but
how fast can you sprint?
22.56 miles an hour.
It's pretty fast.
GPS.
Yeah, GPS. Yeah, you're fast and strong. I'll have to tell you that.
Yeah.
He motivated. So this guy motivated me to lift heavier because I was like doing something. He's like, "Oh, I did that the other day." I'm like, "Fuck,
that's awesome.
Gotta get going here, boys." So he put me on the road to 600. So thank you.
You're welcome.
How did you motivate him? Or is it just
sheer ego and jealousy?
Yeah, I think it was not that refined.
Yeah. You walk past him like, "Is that are you warming up still?"
Yeah, essentially. I think
that was verbatim what I said. No, I just remember seeing Mitch there at 7 p.m. training clients, after a full day of school, and I was like, I'll never do that. And here I am.
Yeah, there was some. That's what prepped me for fatherhood night trauma. Because I was training until 7 or 8.
I know. I remember that. I think about those days sometimes where I'm thinking like, I was so busy then, seeing you training at night and now, and because you were married and was your wife pregnant at the time? I mean, you had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, not on purpose. I mean, the marriage thing, that was the plan, but the baby thing is just one fun night. And George is here. She's 6 now. She's great. But yeah, those days I was getting up at 3 to 5 a.m. to study, and then school from 8 to 5, and then training till I was done.
God, that is rough. That's not sustainable.
No, it wasn't, but it did help. I mean, it did help me kind of isolate my zones of focus.
It's good to have those moments in your life, right?
I had classments that they would be like, "Oh, I'm done with school. I'll go play Xbox now." And I was like, I can't even tolerate that. Right?
No,
I wanted to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Really the desire is there, of course, but you just priorities.
Yep.
I have a specific question about a guy I've been trying to think of his first name.
Richie?
You'll know it.
His first name Richie.
I'm thinking
It's a
about
friend
that.
of mine.
Do you think I'm fit? There's a guy that very well known in the movement world, Portal.
Yeah, Ido Portal.
Ido Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your opinion about Ido? I mean, you don't have to get. I know.
I really respect what he's done, and
What space is he in? He doesn't.
he's in the
bring-
movement exploration space, kind of,
It's
like crawl pattern type of stuff, or what's?
but like very creative and expressive. I mean, Ido came from a capoeira background. He's Israeli, came from a capoeira background, and kind of he's the one who started movement culture, if you've heard of that. I went to a Movement X seminar, and I've had coaching from one of the kind of core students there. So that was
Cool.
kind of that transition area between like traditional strength training and like getting more into functional movement. I really explored calisthenics a lot and kind of got into some of that stuff. So never to his level. I mean, his stuff is not for everybody, but it's very cool. And I think he has a lot of philosophy around building like an appreciation of movement, and a creativity and exploration piece that I think is really important. I think that's a big piece of what's lacking for a lot of people when they're having trouble sticking to some sort of movement practice. Is it's very kind of rote and repetitive, and there's no room for expression, and creativity and rhythm and stuff like that. So I really like what he does. I think it's not applicable for everyone though.
Right. I love his idea of like breaking out of this XY axis of being like, how often are you literally moving forward?
Right.
1% of your day. Yet we train in that way for athletics a lot, and like I think about track and field a lot, where you're just like running straight, and that's as long as your body can do that, but that's not functional. That's not like applicable to your daily life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those concepts have bled a lot into how I train my athletes too, which is a lot of, it's because they're younger athletes, like up to high school level. For a lot of them, it's, creating these environmental constraints and problem solving tasks where they get to have a lot of individual creativity and individual movement expression, which I think is important. So that's a little bit how I've swung, because I used to be very biomechanical. I'm like, if I'm seeing certain things, I don't like that, I want to help fix it. Now I'm recognizing like people have a lot of variations, and if they're doing it safely and competently, that's fine. So it's fun to utilize some of those kind of individual training concepts more in a group setting, where you get to let these kids kind of explore movement options just through setting up a certain task, which is really cool.
Well, I wanted to ask you, unless you have a question.
No, I was just going to ask. So that's, if we're to break it into stages of your career,
We're on the same page.
Transition to choosing chiropractic. That's where you're at today. Like, what got you to the point where you're like, chiropractic?
Yeah,
that's it. Versus,
what was that stimulus?
Other options, right? I mean, you could do physical therapy. You could do OT. You could, like, there's a lot of routes.
More certs.
More certs
For
right?
sure. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good question. Well, first off, I've dealt with ongoing lower back pain throughout most of my life. And I've had pretty poor experiences with everything except for chiropractic. So that was always something. Yeah.
Yeah, you came in.
Oh, yeah.
You'd seen Mitch.
Yep. I've seen Mitch a handful of times. I've seen another guy local here.
Did I adjust you while I was in school? Did we?
No.
No, I don't think we did.
Good answer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a test.
No, you did. You really didn't. I think maybe one time you did something on my wrist.
Wrist or foot or ankle or something, I thought.
It was just wrist.
Yeah.
I think it was jammed because I had been doing a lot of gymnastics stuff.
Peanut butter and jam.
Yeah. But no, you didn't ever, which was good. And I'm still kind of like, I don't want to be adjusted by a bunch of people that haven't refined their craft.
It'll use
yet.
your body.
I was gonna say, you're in chiropractic school. Like,
Oh, yeah, but
like
I'm
T3 is gonna bring you.
I'm gonna say no to a handful of them. I really will.
Yeah, you should.
Or if I can, if I have an option
You
to,
should.
And that's the feedback we've gotten from professors. Is they're like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. I'm like, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Find your nuclear group and
Yeah.
There's some. I remember classmates of mine that I'm like, even now I'm like, they were really good adjusters in school.
Yeah.
Like now they're just great, but I'm like, even in school, they were like the only people that would let
Right.
adjust me.
Yeah, I mean, it matters. Because
For sure.
I've had adjustments that don't feel good, and it matters. I mean, that
Uh-huh.
absolutely matters. But so to come back to your point about
Yeah.
what made me want to get into chiropractic, it's always been a field that's interested me. I know it's very nervous system focused, and like what I was talking about with PRI, when I saw Brent do those little manipulations, and all of a sudden he was touching the ground and he couldn't reach past his knees. So it was kind of this culmination of I'd had personally really good experiences with chiropractic helping me manage and thrive with my intermittent back pain. And then seeing a lot of, especially the athletes, but also some of the aging populations that I work with, they have certain things going on, and I would be referring them out to chiropractors like Mitch and Dr. John, who is also a chiropractor I respect. I'm referring them out to these people. They're coming back feeling a lot better, and then it feels like they can make pretty profound changes with our training. And it just kind of got to the point where I was like, I feel like I might be good at this. I feel like I have a good eye for what's going on. I don't know if I'll be good at actually doing the manipulation stuff, but I just got to a point where I was like, I want to try. And I had my son, and I'm 31, and it was kind of like, you either do this now or you're going to be wondering about it forever. So I just did it, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, obviously I'm very early on, but I'm extremely excited about it. And it just, it's really cool to feel like you're continuing to progress on something that you should be doing.
Yeah, I think that adds a layer that's going to be so beneficial for you as you go through school, that you've now had 9 years or however long it's been,
About 9
of
years.
like seeing patients.
Yeah.
Like now they're patients versus clients.
Yep.
Like you've probably already gathered like which ones are going to do well with chiropractic, which ones are not, which is going to be super helpful
For sure.
in working with other professionals. Because,
Yeah.
like for me, I mean, you were kind of in a similar situation where you're training people between undergrad and chiropractic school. I went right from undergrad to chiropractic school, right? Like I didn't have like real life experience.
Yeah.
And I think that matters, and that changes because your first couple of years in practice, you're like, what's going on?
Right.
You're just tuning up everybody, but not really having a good clinical eye of like, hey, these people are going to do better.
Yeah.
These people, like, I'm not going to be able to help, and like understanding that.
Right.
That I think that's just going to give you an upper edge for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it feels like there's certain areas where I do feel equipped. Patient rapport or client rapport. And like you said, kind of picking up on patterns of like who's going to be receptive physically and mentally, emotionally to the treatments. But it is interesting. I mean, if I can ask you a question, I mean, what did you feel like the hardest part of going straight through, like as you came out, like you said, like was it your clinical eye, or was it just feeling like comfortable with knowing how to interact with the patients? I mean, that's what I'm curious about. It seems like in my cohort, it's more that latter piece, like knowing how to build the connection with an individual.
I feel like I had that throughout school. Like I felt like that was never an issue.
Yeah.
He's always been a social butterfly.
I always like seek to get better.
Yeah.
Like our mentor, Dr. Fargo, I remember asking him, like I remember clear as yesterday, I'm like, hey man, I want to communicate to patients like you do. Like, what do I have to do?
Yeah, that's
like
cool.
show me.
Yeah.
Like just tell me what I have to do, because I want to like speak to people like
Yeah.
that. So I think gravitating towards the right mentors and people that you respect and how they communicate, like as long as it's similar styles. Like if I was to be with somebody that's like super bubbly and like that might not gravitate towards them.
Yeah.
Versus somebody that's, like we have different communication styles, but they're, how we respect people and have bonds is something that's comfortable.
Yeah.
Matching people's tone. If you have a client who's a little more sulking and a little more Eeyore-ish, you're going to speak and communicate differently than someone who's like ready to go.
Yeah, you're just about business. But I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
like,
it does,
what was the
definitely.
hardest part, like after school, you mean?
Yeah,
like the transition?
Yeah, I mean,
it was more the clinical stuff, because you just you're learning who you are as a clinician. Like the communication part, like I said, that's just kind of like human interaction that I'm like, you do it your whole life.
Yep.
The clinical side of things, I think, was not difficult, but there's a lot of different techniques in chiropractic, right? There's a lot of different styles of thought that I think it took me 3 years to find like, hey, this works for me.
Trying to
This
sift
is how.
through.
Yeah, and then through that process, you know, him and I started talking more seriously about this, and now it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think one thing that students will have to all, you know, figure out for themselves is like, what do you like personally? What can you do physically?
What
And
don't? Can I add something
Yeah.
quick? What don't you like?
Right,
Because don't do that.
right. Like there are a few things like,
In terms of like in terms of what you do in your practice.
yeah, you gotta have certainty in what you're doing, and if there's some things that you don't have confidence in, you know, it's gonna show, and
Right.
your patients are gonna feel it. Kind of like if you're gonna train somebody. Like if someone came to me and was like, "I want to jump around and do what you do," I'd be like, "Not my cup of tea."
Yeah.
Like if you want to push weight and you want to get strong, like I'm confident with that genre.
Yep.
But if you want to move and be nimbly bimbly, that's for you guys.
Yeah. Totally.
But through chiropractic too, like you've experienced good and bad adjustments.
Yep.
People who have been adjusted by those good and bad ones may have had a completely flipped experience too. Like the paradigm doesn't fit for them. So I think as a student, you're gonna synthesize all this. Like once you're through all your initial tries, once you start getting into techniques and stuff, that's where I felt, because I had a good vision of what I wanted to do, because I had a mentor, Dr. Fargo, and I was like, I need that, and I think I can do that pretty well. But then pairing like my strength background too, I was really excited to get into the industry and like, I'm going to adjust somebody and we're going to work out. Like that was kind of like my goal in practice, but life happened, and you know, you'll learn different business variables applying that scheme too.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
like,
I'm definitely curious about that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a conversation
we can
for
talk
another
about
time.
that, right? You know, some of the things that, like in a perfect world, like if I had all the money and I could just retire and do my chiropractic, it would probably look like Cabin in the Woods, and I adjust dogs and train them and not have to work with people. That's for a different day. But the business part of it, I think, is one of those treacherous paths that everyone needs to also figure out too. Is like, okay, I have to take care of my people. I have to provide for my people, and then I also have to provide a good service to the clients who are wanting that too. So it's a little bit of a balance, but if you can leverage other people within your practice, I think that's what we've come to find too. Like, we're really good at adjusting. I've put the training thing a little bit on a shelf, but I can also sniff out what people need and send them to people that are appropriate. And I think that's, you know, say what you want about it, but you know, we're trying to get out of this debt hole.
I mean, it does make so much sense to build around your weak links.
Yeah, who, not how, you know.
Right. I mean, I commend you guys for doing that. That's the reason I'm still around, because you guys see that. You're like, we are great at this, but we also know enough people to make the needs that we can't meet met by other people, and hopefully we do that all in one space, or you know, close proximity.
If we
like
can.
time units
Smart.
wise, it's just not possible, and
No.
it's super cool to see. Like, hey, Richie, go see Tyler,
Right.
And you're like, holy cow, that was really sweet. And we have the guy come in to our space now, and we're like, adjust, go see Tyler.
Yeah.
You know, it's been pretty cool doing it that way. So
That is cool.
I think people respond to that too. They understand the value. Like when you go to a restaurant and you get a 15-page menu, you're like, oh, all this is going to suck probably. And
or
then
you
go to
find
a
out that
menu-
your server is also cooking the food and washing your dishes,
Yeah,
and you're like,
and
"Oh, this
cleaning
is
your
gonna-
toilet."
This is
You're
going to be
like-
clunky.
I'll just have a water.
Yeah.
So it's like, specialties are very, very. It's just smart that you get that with age.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about Vital Pursuits and like what that channel is and how you've kind of designed it over the last, you said 9.5 years?
Yeah.
Is that all you?
Yeah, Vital Pursuit Athletics is all me.
It's pretty impressive, man.
It's a great
It's a good
channel.
website.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I have my website and the Instagram. The Instagram, you know, frankly, I'm a little bit burnt out on social media, or
We have a guy for you.
I've just.
We know a guy.
Me too.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the Instagram is really just kind of showcasing like what I kind of do and experiment and explore with myself. And it is representative of what my practice is with my clients. but it's just a little bit easier and more enjoyable for me to showcase that. And also there is certain client and athlete privacy things that I don't love sharing other people. If, they may or may not want that to happen, and obviously you always get their consent. But so that page is kind of fun. I kind of just do it for me at this point. The website has some good information about what I do, and the Instagram is a cool place to look at the evolution of it. There's, I don't know, however many posts, and you can just see kind of the ebbs and flows of what I talk about. And I mean, again, I've been in a place where I try to share a lot of value and insight on there, and you get a lot of people that just want everything for free, and you have to learn how to kind of modulate that, and that's okay. But there is some good information out there and good resources if people are interested in learning about some of the stuff that's kind of, top of mind for me. But yeah, I mean, Vital Pursuit Athletics has just kind of been the evolution of my thought process around, training people to feel optimal and move well for their whole life. And building kind of what I think those core tenets are. And I've talked about them a little bit, but I think the ability to move fast and move slow, the ability to actually tune into yourself, which is always shocking. I know, I mean, mindfulness practices, meditation, all that stuff is starting to become more popular again. But it always shocks me how disconnected people are from their breath and their body in space. So getting something that kind of pulls you back into that. And directly related to that is this kind of idea of creativity and rhythm and flow, finding a flow state. So finding movement that offers you that, because that's extremely therapeutic and kind of meditative in and of itself. So for some people, their exercise practice could be a lot like, it could be dance. It could be them going to dance or learning how to dance with their significant other, or for others, it's running, which is also very rhythmic, or going to a yoga flow, like whatever it is, whatever gets you moving, do that. Like it can be as complicated as you want, but at a certain level, just like you need to figure out what gets your butt out of the chair and doing something that engages you. That really matters the most.
You must, I'm sorry, I'm far away.
There's a fist rule you have to abide by.
Anyways, what's like, who out there, like if you're on Instagram, who are you following? Who do you like to look at and take bits and pieces of? I mean, like when you talk about longevity, you think of like Peter Attia, his newest book. Yeah. And you're smiling because I'm guessing I know you're very fond of Peter Attia, maybe.
I'm his biggest fan.
Yeah, I was gonna as you were talking, I'm like, I bet he rocks out. I mean, I love Peter Attia.
No, I think he has a lot of value. I think one of the most important skills that I've learned, in this space and in general, is being able to take value from things and then let the rest of it fall away. So if you are perceiving certain values from a person or a system of thought or whatever, take that stuff and you can let the rest of it fall away. I think a lot of people are always looking for like, what is the system or the person to follow or the thing. There isn't. There's a lot of different permutations and expressions, and that's great. I'm at a point where I'm not looking at a lot of other influences. I'm kind of taking what I have and trying to explore and apply it. I think there's something to be said about, like, in general, isometric training, which is moving as slow as you can, not moving at all or imperceptibly slow, and then moving through ranges of motion that you need to maintain, moving through those ranges of motion as quickly as you can. So certain kinds of plyometrics or sprinting or running fast, like I think that though, like if you can hit those two poles, you're going to do really well for yourself. And that's a whole interesting space. I mean, like, is there good movement? Is there bad movement? Like, are there biomechanics that are disposing people to being more prone to injury? Who knows? I mean, the NFL is pouring, millions and millions of dollars into figuring that out, and they don't have any idea. The issue you run into, and it's an issue I see in just Western medicine in general, is it's kind of it can get spun as fear mongering a little bit. It makes people think that they're really fragile, that there is movements that, like, if you do this, you're going to hurt yourself. Like if you bend down with a rounded back to pick up your kid, you could fracture a vertebrae or something. It's just not quite that simple. To me, it's not that simple. Maybe my understanding changes over time, but
well, I mean, if you're on medications that are creating less bone density, then yes, you could.
Yeah,
but it's not that action. It's all the meds that you're taking.
Right.
It's kind of like anything in our sphere. It's like comes down to the person in front of you.
Right.
So how do you synthesize their whole? I think
Resistance.
McGill's stuff really inspired me to like help people with like mechanism of injury, and that's like a huge thing for him too.
Right.
It's like, okay, sir, you give me this like history of what your pain pattern is. Like for you, like intermittent low back pain.
Yep.
Like I'm sure you could probably synthesize like this volume and this loading pattern gets me there.
Right.
And it like chips away until it hits.
Right.
With some variance.
Yeah.
But I think what I really like about him is how he can kind of dissect that. And he does isolate it. Okay, looks like you got a flexion intolerance. How do we avoid that mechanism, but how do we stiffen you up or move you, depending on what you need?
Right.
Like, do you need stability or do you need mobility? You
Yeah.
know, like, binary patterns like that, I think, are like a yes or no answer to some of those things. Helps clinically to get you a good answer. But you obviously know, like, there's more to it than that. But at least it's like, okay, I can put this foot forward confidently. So yeah, I would, any student out there who's in chiropractic or PT, I would, McGill's good because it's a very interesting foundation, but no, there's more out there.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
that
think
has
he
me
would-
thinking. I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean, a little bit of what it sounds like you're saying is like, you know, the dose is in the poison too. I mean, it's are there certain positions that are more compromised than others? I think all of us would agree for sure. Like, especially like the ACL or MCL, like that's really easy. Like the foot is turned out, the knee is diving in, the arch is like that is a mechanism of injury. And there's certain things where no matter what you do, you're gonna get injured doing that at speed. But something like, let's say, like spinal flexion or something, is it a more of a matter of, okay, progressively loading, like that person that got hurt with a lot of flexion when they were trying to deadlift or something, was that just a spike in volume and intensity that they hadn't experienced before versus somebody that's slowly built up, you know what I mean? And so maybe we're saying a lot of actually the same things. And I find that also to be the case a lot of times when you think you have a really opposing view to something, and it's actually like,
saying the same thing.
Yeah, if you break it down and look at it, like we actually maybe agree about a lot, and maybe there's pieces we don't agree about for sure.
Yeah.
But it sounds like McGill is more.
I think he gets a bad rap because of the people who explain his theories.
Yes.
Because if you listen to any of his like live lectures, he'll always preface, and this is kind of a joke, it depends.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
it
like-
depends. He says in the podcast that's on TIA, he's like, well, it all depends on the exam. You know, because Tia was asking him like, hey, what about this person? You know, he's like, well, it all depends on the exam.
Just a huge
The exam guides you.
Yes.
The exam always guides you.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
But
appreciate
a lot of
that.
people just like generalities, right?
For sure. Loving it.
We're
Yeah.
guardians of this industry because there's a lot of fools out there, and some people would consider us fools too because it's like, well, how do you know that affects that? And it's like, well, we can go down that rabbit hole if you want, but you know, there's
Our
some.
go-to is like proofs in the pudding. Like, give us a month,
Right.
like minimum. If you don't feel anything, then we just move on with our lives.
You know,
Yeah.
just clinical infighting is a little bit irksome to me, but there are some clinicians out there that it's just like, oh man, you are taking advantage of people in pain, and you know, so like being honest with your patients and saying like, this is what's worked for me in the past.
Right.
And if they're like, well, show me the evidence, I'd be like, we literally can't study this. Like,
Right.
we know there's biomechanical, like, for example, like if we test somebody's hip and we notice like 2 out of 3 muscles aren't responding the way we would like to see them in comparison to the patient's other side.
Yeah.
You know, it's all in reference to the symmetries that we can tease out.
Right.
So, I mean, as a clinician, there are some things that I'm like, I'm not touching this. We got to wrap up. You got the.
We got like a couple
5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
But like being honest with patients and what he said, it's like, give us a month. Here's what we know. Here's what we can help you with. Here's palliative things that you can do as well.
Right.
And we are trying to, I mean, the goal for us, I think, is trying to like help people avoid surgery and a lifelong, you know, prescription to some painkiller.
100%.
Because your low back pain is not a lack of pain meds.
Right.
Like it just isn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to synthesize, like, put your boots on because you're going to be walking through some bullshit a
Right.
little bit. Even at school. Like,
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
some
yeah.
teachers that, you know, they say things out of clinical experience. It's like, can we lean on these tools as hard as you are,
Right.
with also being honest, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, clinical experience is hard to deny when it comes to yourself, but you always have to like say, it might depend though, you know, like the data is not there because we can't produce it.
Right.
Yeah. Just being honest with people and just knowing that you can't help everybody, but if you try, you can help a ton of people.
Yeah.
I think that's what I've learned through our experience as
Well,
owning our own practice too, and being like our own, like there's no big mentor right next to you who can answer these questions because he's been in practice for 40 years more than you.
Yeah.
So that's been a growing pattern for me, at least, for us together. So any last words, young man?
Well, first of all, thank you guys very much for having me. It's an honor to be on here.
Yeah,
We're
buddy.
honored to be honored.
Yeah. It's nice to have you.
No, other than that, if you haven't moved today, go move.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I need to move.
This has been imprisonment.
I know.
I need to move to my bed.
Like,
and
I need to
This is the
move.
earliest
So bad.
podcast we've ever recorded
Yeah,
to date.
it
So
is.
Good.
gotta get back to work. That's a wrap on the tap.
Nice job.
Nice.
This is a house of learned doctors. You're not a